the Weekly Hijack.
Trust no one.
Well, that's Anna Lucia's motto anyway. We just finished The Other 48 Days, which told the sad and stressful story of the tail section.
I really enjoy this episode.
It's an unusual episode. Like, I don't think any other episode of Lost is structured like this
No,
one.
I think this is a very uniquely structured episode.
I mean, the previously on is at the end of the episode.
Exactly.
But there's no flashbacks unless you count the whole episode as a flashback.
Yeah.
It's showing all the
It's a chronological
days.
flashback with actual days. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, too, because just from Ryan's point of view, you're just peeling together lots of very intense, little tiny scenes.
Yeah, all the little moments.
Yeah. And you could probably go and write whole episodes about some of those days if you really wanted to, but
I suppose, but
no need
generally,
to.
Yeah, that's not the way you do Lost. Though,
No.
This is a very specific set of circumstances that necessitated this.
And so we learned, I think, if you're going to ever get any sort of empathy for Anna Lucia, this episode should hopefully do it.
Yeah. Oh man, the picture of Echo holding her while she's crying is just beautiful.
Yeah, because it's the only time all episode that we're just like, she lets her guard down.
Yeah.
I love that line, like, you wait 40 days to speak, you wait 40 days to cry.
Yeah.
That's a great... It's the Echo-Anna relationship is very interesting. Because, like, every time she would do something, she'd look to him and be like, are you okay with that? Like, he was her conscience. If he would have said no, she wouldn't have done something in some way, I felt like. Like, if you would actually have said, don't do that. You even saw that in the previous episodes where he's the only one who has much sway over what she does.
Yeah.
Well, have you seen the guy? He's the Hulk.
Yeah, but I think it's more than that, though, too. But yeah. It's a very interesting relationship. I mean, it's almost... I mean, you don't want to push this metaphor too far, but, it's like if Jack and Locke got, like, actually listened to each other.
Bounce off each other a little bit. That's an interesting perspective. Because I thought you were going to say it's kind of like Kalia and Braun.
No, I wouldn't do that. I guess you could say that, but what's just interesting, you hear that they were thinking about in the first episode of Lost to have, Jack die and have the strong female leader, as in Kate. But it's like they actually did it here for...
I suppose so.
And they're like, oh, we should have this idea. Let's just try it.
Yeah. Interesting how they play with the audience who knew about Ethan beforehand, but knows that, okay, the others have done this before.
Yeah.
So it's possible that the first-time audience is probably on the fence about whether Nathan's the guy or not.
Yeah, which is fun because it's like, you don't feel like, oh, they're just tricking, it's red herring, or we should believe it. Just like, I don't know. They realize that it's ambiguous, and they'd rather play that than the, like, pretend they tricked you, and all the smart readers are like, no, I thought it was Goodwin.
Yeah.
You're just like, Goodwin's odd because we don't know him, but if you've had all this and you talk about Goodwin previously, so you don't really know what to make of him.
Yeah, like something big was important to them, but you don't know what exactly. It's interesting too, though. I was thinking all the accusations they were making against Nathan could have been said against Goodwin too, and it's just because he acted differently that. And
apparently Nathan has this problem with having to go to the bathroom for long periods of time. I mean, he's on the plane. He says that was his thing. I mean, he obviously has issues.
Maybe he's their drug addict.
Well, I was thinking, isn't there a bathroom that on the plane that they're trying to get in, that Charlie's trying to get into, and it was already taken, so he had to go to the other side of the plane?
Oh,
I think that's
possible. Yeah. Wow.
Or that Bernard, because Bernard was also going to the restroom too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then he got bowed out of his seat, so maybe it was. I don't know which one it would have been.
Or was he just sitting in a different section than Rose was?
No, she was waiting for him to get back, and then he buckled in real fast.
Okay, well, you win the Obscure Details Memory Award for this time.
Well, hopefully it's right. Sometimes I misremember. So. And then random details, the glass eye. You're just like, that's just weird.
Yeah, and I don't remember that being referenced.
I don't think it is. I
either.
think people make theories like it was Mikhail's eye.
Yeah.
One eye.
It's possible.
So I mean, it's one of those things. It doesn't matter, but you can connect some dots if you want to.
I feel like there's some other episode, maybe season 3, where they're in like a cave and they find like some
the
trinkets
toy
out
truck.
there. Yeah, and you think, oh, that's going to be something, and it never actually is. Whether they had meant it to be something or not, who knows?
But I mean, Echo's a very interesting character. I mean, he always is, but you've only seen him in like his savage, like I'm beating people up state, and he gets off. He's all dressed like a priest.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, not quite. You wouldn't know if he's a priest or like a businessman at this
true.
point. Yeah, he was just in a nice shirt. But
he picks up the Holy Bible. Yeah, he picks up the Bible. So you can't, if you wanted to make the guess, you could have.
Yeah, there were clues. They were breadcrumbs.
It's very interesting. Listen to Goodwin this time. You're like, not that the others were right, but, you know, you can tell, like, they got killed by Echo, and so you can tell the dad he's trying to protect his people.
Yeah.
In many ways, you know, in a lot of this stuff. And it's very interesting to watch Goodwin this time, knowing who he is.
Well, if nothing else, you have to admire his dedication to his act.
Yeah.
I mean, it would not have been easy to hang out with the survivors for that long, considering, you know, they were survivors. Like, they didn't have much to live on.
Well, and I think he probably was not faking about being the Peace Corps.
Oh, probably not.
I think that was probably, and it's very interesting when she's like, does that still exist? And I don't know. To me, watching, knowing it was him, I almost thought he would like, wait, should I have, you know, does it still exist?
Yeah.
You know, because who knows how long he's been there.
And you could tell when he was getting like a little uncomfortable with as they were piecing things together about the spy and all that kind of stuff.
But it's always interesting to know he wasn't a good person, so we're not taking him. You know, that's a very interesting.
Yeah.
The other's view of good, and it's really that ambiguous. Like from our survivors' point of view, the others are just evil. From the others' point of view, half the survivors are like killing their people left and right.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the others has always been they're very one-dimensional in their thinking.
Yeah.
Like they're very like our way is the best way, and
it's
we're going to
their island, and this is our religion, and this is we're going to do it this way.
And we don't have any need to tell you about what's going on. It's just,
And so in that Army knife, I guess is we do have the U.S. Army run around later on. Mm-hmm. Well, earlier on,
depending on which timeline you're looking at.
Yeah,
but there's an item that actually has history to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They set up this whole like this is another Damon Lindelof, Carlton Cuse episode.
Okay,
and you could tell they had this sense that even by season 2, there were lots of levels of people here. Yeah,
a lot of history. Well, yeah, because you've got your Dharma, and then you got the
U.S. Army and this Peace Corps guy, and
yeah. Interesting. The more the episode goes on from the Tail People's perspective, you have to wonder, by the time Anna Lucia came back after Goodwin, you have to wonder at their trust in at her. Because, like, she said he was bad, and she also said Nathan was bad. Yeah. I mean, she happened to be right the second time, but that's, like, the only time she was right this whole episode. Well, I'm stretching a bit.
You don't get much Libby. Libby's a very interesting character. She's doing that story that strips the guy a leg, and, she's something.
Something the Tail People had rough is that they didn't have a Jack. They didn't have not only for the inspiration but for the medical kind of purposes.
The very medical, and he's very level-headed most times. I mean, he has his
moments.
Yeah, they don't have a Sayid either.
That's true,
which would help a lot.
Yeah, well, and they don't have. You saw them like eating oysters or clams or whatever that was. They didn't have any of the supplies from the plane. The planes, their plane, half of the plane sank.
They were just a lot worse off.
Yeah,
in lots of ways.
Too close to the others.
Yeah, they landed really close to the others.
And they didn't have Jin to go fishing for them either.
Exactly.
So it was like only by the time they got around to day, what was it, 41 or something, when they were actually building nets.
Yeah, exactly. So they did not have the supplies or the manpower that the other side did.
Yeah. But they also didn't have quite as many people, so I guess that was part of it. Like even when you saw them on the beach at the beginning, it didn't look like
they said
23 survivors.
Yeah.
23. And how many? Do you remember how many there were of the other section?
About 40.
40. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Maybe 42. I don't know. Just throw the number in there.
So I feel like this is a good time to bring up a question you and I talked about while we were still watching first season. Is that in a way the tail section people? The only one who actually lives through the end of the show is Bernard.
Yeah.
Most of them don't actually make it past season 3.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Cindy does. But
she drinks the Kool-Aid. So.
But she's largely forgotten about until season 6.
Isn't Echo the only one that makes it to season 3?
Yeah, of the main ones, yeah. And he doesn't last very long. Yeah. So the question is this tail section stuff largely filler? Does it have a important role in the rest of the show?
I don't know. It is interesting. It does kind of. It's at least a foil, if nothing else.
Okay.
If I can use that
foil,
literary term of a foil is where you have something that you compare your main people against to see how they fare. The classic example I've always been told was Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer at the beginning of Huckleberry Finn and then at the end of Huckleberry Finn, Tom's basically the same.
Yeah.
And Huck is very, very different.
True.
And you do get some insight into others in a different manner, which is kind of one of the running themes of this season. Yeah, I mean, you could do it other ways, probably. Yeah. But the Goodwin thing is,
you compare the Echo to Locke.
Yeah.
You show different dimensions of Locke compared to Echo's faith.
Yeah, and the addition of the Echo one is very interesting for this second half of this season, where Locke's really wrestling with.
Mm-hmm. And Echo becomes more steadfast.
Yeah, in many ways it is. I mean, they are kind of a blip in the whole thing, but in many ways, maybe they do highlight our characters in different ways, and they are largely, hey, we need more plot.
Yeah, Yeah, there's that, and it's not that Lost doesn't do that. I mean, there's a lot of the freighter stuff that's in fourth season that's really contained to fourth season.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean it's bad.
It is probably one of the largest influx of characters that suddenly disappear. I mean, I guess. Yeah, because some of the freighter people hang around for at least a season. Miles makes it to the end.
Oh, Miles make it all. Yeah, both of them make it all the way to the end. And the other characters have pretty. I mean, Daniel Faraday is a very important character to introduce.
Yeah.
So, but and I guess then there's Libby, who doesn't last terribly long, but does make a pretty big impact on her life.
Yeah, and I think the way maybe we talk about the others, how these other survivors impact our survivors. I think next episode is called Collision.
Yeah.
Maybe that is part of the reason for it, to see, hey, what happens if we throw this new element against all our semi-stable society we have here?
That's true. So, and that's important. Well, we should probably get to the next one here.
Anything, Natasha? We talked a lot, but
I mean, it's a shame about Goodwin, because he seems really nice at the beginning of this episode, and then you see him later interacting with Juliet. He's a relatively decent guy. I mean, he's got some problems, but he doesn't seem evil. The only time he ever seems evil is after he twists that guy's neck in this episode, and then he just has this creepy vibe.
Yeah.
Where he's Ana Lucia wakes up and he's staring at her, and the way he talks to her in that last scene.
Well, yeah, he turns very cold when she asks why, when he explains why.
That conversation is great. Yeah. Just awkward, tense.
This kind of building as she's putting pieces together and he's being very stone-faced.
The others do seem to be very good at deceit.
Yes.
I mean, all of them.
Yeah. You kind of wonder how they pick that up, because, most of the time, their lives, until these very key moments, you'd think they were by themselves.
Well, but I guess people are constantly, the whole history of the island is people coming to the island. So they probably learned, it's probably like defense mechanism, a camouflage of sorts.
That's probably true. And we do find out that the others do have some connections off island, so they probably do have to deal with other people more often than we think. Okay, so next episode, Collision. So we just finished Collision. Very good episode.
It's a very good episode. Mm-hmm. I didn't remember with the title. I didn't remember what it was about, but there's a lot of good stuff going on in this one.
Yeah, we fully resolved the whole tail section, and all the plane survivors have been reunited.
I have to say, for as much as a lot of viewers hate Ana Lucia, she has a very strong, for being one of the first characters they introduced late. Mm-hmm. Her and Echo really hit, and Echo hasn't had much chance yet. I mean, everyone's intrigued by him at this point.
Sure.
But Lucia has a very strong entry. She feels like she could, at least with her backstory and with her character and all the angst around her, that she could very easily fit into the culture of the lost survivors.
Yes, there's a lot going on with her in the background, and you can. She's a character, and similar to Sawyer, I suppose, in the first season, before you knew anything about him, when everyone thought he was just a jerk.
Yeah.
But in this case, not knowing anything about him, you think she's just also kind of jerky. But there's actually, when you on a second watch, you see what's motivating her the whole time. And in the last episode, there's a bit of a foreshadowing of
kid thing.
Yeah, I think Goodwin asked her if she had kids, and she has this look, and yeah.
And I don't think this episode would work near as well without the last episode.
No, probably not. if you hadn't known
like either
most
flip
of what
them around
happened,
or something like that, I don't think it would have worked.
No, probably not. I would agree with that.
You need that empathy for, especially Anna Lucia. I mean, because, like Natasha when we started the episode, she was about ready to wring her neck.
She's a terrible person. I mean, granted, okay, she was pregnant when she got shot by some punk kid who didn't know that. I mean, it was a terrible situation, yes, but to not let the law take care of him, to take matters into her own hands, she's hot-headed.
Oh, yeah.
She goes way too far.
No, you're right.
I think and so it's hard to find anything redeemable about her.
Yeah, I'm not sure that she's supposed to be particularly likable.
Well, certainly not. What's the word? Not imitatable. She's not the person that you want to like. Oh man, I wish I could be as authoritative as Jack, or or as cheerful as Hurley. She's not someone that you want to imitate. No, certainly.
They've certainly given her complexities based on more than what you first thought. She was just horrible, and she has a lot of hot-headedness, and I don't think that's ever quite. And that's just
part of her. Yes.
No, that's just her.
Yeah, very interesting. The whole resolution between her and Sayid, I thought very sad in a sense, but we're both dead, and
that's one.
But very, interesting.
And that, I did not remember that at all. And that idea of him feeling dead obviously gets played out later, quite substantially.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to have two characters in a place where they're like, either one of them will accept their fate if they're about to die. They both kind of think they deserve it, and then at the very end, because they both feel the same way, they spare each other.
Yeah. And it is kind of, as much as, like Natasha said, she digs her own grave most times. At least I feel a little bad when everyone's like, people just keep leaving her because she is over the top and whatever. But that she's just there all by herself and knows that she basically deserves it. Yeah,
and her sense of isolation is not going to go away anytime soon. No. She's pretty much ostracized for a while after this.
It's interesting. This is, a couple, parallel things. First off, she did basically the same thing Sayid that happened to her, kill someone. Except hers was accidental-ish. This is the second time Jack finds someone he knew from, it's not as far back as the whole Desmond thing, but he had met with Anna Lucia and the whole thing. So there's that. They play with that connection there at the end, like, oh, yeah.
Which is, it's interesting how well that diffuses Jack, because he's all ready to go out guns a-blazing, but then as soon as he hears the name Anna Lucia, is like, oh, wait.
And Echo sees that in his face. You can tell. Echo's like, yeah, you're coming, but nobody else is.
Yeah.
and it just, there's a lot of stuff like that playing. I mean, the introduction between Locke and Echo is just
this sizing each other up, and it's like there's almost this like sixth sense of like them evaluating. There's something to this guy.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. It's like the whole scene, but there's a lot more underneath. If you just write on the script, you'd be like,
Echo is such a wise man, though.
I know.
The way he read that whole situation.
When you could tell, with the guns, he's like, this is not, as we find out later, he knows what guns, things don't end well with lots of guns.
Yeah, true.
And then we got some renewed Kate Sawyer stuff. This is a very interesting episode, too, because they have a lot of, that's all stuff. And then they have the golf, they're playing golf at the beginning. It could be a very chaotic episode, which many things they started with, but it really compacts really well near the end.
Well, I think, and it's a great return back to the camp. After like the horribleness of what we just saw at the other 48 days, to see them playing golf and doing laundry and all this stuff is just such a stark contrast between the two.
Yeah,
but it plays well, and it's almost like a reintroduction of things. I really enjoyed Charlie's role in this, because Charlie doesn't always get a lot to do, but it was nice that he was sort of the first to, and he was interacting with Hurley. They're kind of being friends again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just enjoyed. There's just a lot to enjoy in this.
And a lot little setbacks. Like Michael runs into Son's garden again.
And of course, the reunions were fantastic. Good to see Rose and Bernard. Well, Michael and Vincent,
which is kind of bittersweet.
It's sad, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bittersweet one.
Yeah.
Sun Jin one's great because she's not even paying any attention.
Yeah, which is funny because she actually knew Jen. Then I guess she was just very patiently waiting for him to come back. She knew he was there, but
and it's just nice, because you forget sometimes that a week and then wait a week. So they have the beep in the background, like, why don't you go get the button? Like, we haven't forgotten that, and we're still doing that thing.
Right.
Don't worry, we'll get back to that.
I suppose anyone who knew Gilgamesh, what's he from?
He's from the Babylonian.
It's the Babylonian mythology.
Yeah, I don't know if it had anything to do with anything.
Maybe who knows?
It's just odd because they don't often point out things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I know more of Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy than the Babylonian thing. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything we missed?
No. Very enjoyable. I mean, those two work really well together.
They really do. They kind of piggyback.
They handle the tail end very well for this
the whole introduction and the meeting and
I would not have to have the Shannon being killed end like that. It's just the whole way they panned everything out was very unexpected.
Probably the only case I can think of survivor killing another survivor.
Yeah, I think so.
They never go really they saw your jokes about going Lord of the Flies at some point. But
the worst that ever happened was Sayid torturing
Sawyer. Yeah. There was never really much infighting from either group.
No,
squabbling.
There will be another
survivor
killing.
Oh, there will
survivor. Michael.
Oh, well.
That's true.
Yeah. Very notable exception there at this point. And they do split off eventually at the start of season 4, I believe.
Split off?
Yeah. Like Jack has a group and then Locke has a group that
goes
to the barracks.
Yeah. They have a lot of infighting, but not usually.
Not
it doesn't
usually
normally come
violent,
to death. Yeah.
But except for this season, strangely enough. All right, I have no idea what's coming up next time, so we'll be surprised.
It should be fun.
Stay tuned to Derailed Trains of Thought. We've got an episode on post-apocalyptic stuff coming up soon.
Yes.
So
tune in on iTunes and Stitcher and our website.
And if you've forgotten that website, that is derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com. Until next time, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.